everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today we are filming in the woods. No, just kidding. We've just come out for a nice Sunday afternoon walk. It's getting a bit loud, I might have to move a little bit. We're right under where some of the planes are flying over from one of the airfields we're near. So yeah, we are just on a Sunday afternoon walk. Zach's here as well, he's over there filming his vlog today. We just thought we'd come on and get some nice fresh air. The weather is beautiful, it's lovely. Love it. So this afternoon I am going to be starting on the Christmas stockings for our getaway. So I mentioned in one of my previous vlogs when we went out and bought the fabrics that I've got a theme for the girls, theme for the guys. I've watched a couple of other YouTube tutorials on how to make them, so I'm hoping they come out alright. So yeah, when we get home I'll probably put some lunch together and then I'll get started, so I'll show you how I make the stockings. So very excited, haven't made them in like a year. The first time I did them last year, but last year's ones I bought plain red and white stockings and then decided to decorate myself. But this year, making them completely from scratch, they're a lot bigger, so I think it's for 11 people, so wish me luck. Good morning everyone, it's now some days later after our walk. I know I said I was going to do them, make these stockings that afternoon, but it was Sunday, got very lazy, put it off for a couple of days, but I have been practicing some, so today I'm going to show you how I've been making the Christmas stockings for our getaway. So here is the one that I'll show you how to make today. It's just a nice pretty Christmas print, nice bit of topper on here, something I've never actually done before, so it's actually my first time. And I've just added, so from a previous vlog I got these, I think it was like a reel of them. It was like, turned out to be a couple of meters and it was only about 60p from the bargain bin, so it wasn't very costly to make. I think this fabric per metre was about £2 something, and then this one here, I did get it in the bargain box as well. There was just a massive sheet of it that I got for about £1.60, but I think naturally it was only about £2 or something per metre anyway. So everything you need to make these stockings, I have got my trusty scissors obviously for cutting. I've already cut out my the soft white fabric here. I've just cut it on a fold here, so, and it's roughly the same width as the stocking template. I've got my ribbon for it to hang on the door or fireplace, wherever you're going to put it. And I've already cut out here my stocking pieces. I literally just drew my own large version of a sock. Whether or not it's the best type, I don't know. I didn't use a template for it, I just sort of went with it and it turned out okay. So you can obviously get them online, or you can just take your chance and draw your own. So I've drawn my own templates. I've cut out 2 of my outer fabric, which is the Christmas print here, and then I've cut 2, so the inside fabric I've just done a plain red cotton. I haven't done any lining or interfacing on this one. The ones that I've been making have come out okay, so it's completely up to you of how thick or how fine that you want the depth of your stocking to be. So yeah, I've just got 2 plain sheets of cotton and cut 2 of each for those. I'll normally use pins, but today I'm going to use my clips. These are really good if you've got like thicker fabrics to use. These I actually got on Amazon. I'll focus there. There we go. So these I bought on Amazon. I can't remember exactly how much they were, but if I can find them, I will put I'll put the link in the description below for you. So first of all, I'm going to start by sewing the outer fabric. So you want to put right sides together for this step. So I'm just going to line them up and pin them, and you're going to sew all the way around the outside. So just start from the top, leave this top gap open. You don't want to seal that up, otherwise you're not going to be able to turn it inside out and finish the rest of the stocking. So you want to leave the top of the stocking here, and you're just going to want to sew all the way around down to the foot, up the other side, and just leave a little gap so you're sewing like a sock inside out. So once I've sewn this all together, you may find that the fabric at the bottom might go a bit wrinkly, especially on the curvy edges. So what you can do to relieve a bit, I don't do it all the way around, but I'll do it on part of it, is just literally cut in here a couple of little triangles out, and it just relieves some of, I think it just relieves some of it pulling too much, and then it just looks a bit strange. So I normally just give it a couple of pulls. There are other tutorials that probably show you probably better places to do this, but for me, I just do it where I can see, and I'll do it where I think it works best. So I think it is really at your discretion. It depends on what fabric you're using as well, but it just sort of loosens up that tension a little bit there. Once you've just literally just 2 little trimmings here, and it just relieves that like crinkliness, and it just loosens it up a little bit for you as well. So once you have sewn that side, you're then going to grab the inside fabric, and if you're using a lining, I'm guessing you need to do that first, but as I'm just doing just the inside fabric on its own, I'm going to pin that together. So what you want to do for this piece is, again, leaving the top of your stocking here completely open, but what you want to do when it gets to the bottom, I mean, you can either do it at the bottom of your fabric, or you can do it down one of the sides, is you have to leave a gap so that you can put your hand through it here in order to pull the other side through. So if I normally just start sewing, I'll sew down one side here up until like this point, and then I'll leave a gap and then start sewing again and go all the way around and back to the top. So you're going to want to leave a gap just enough maybe for your hand to get through, just so you can pull through your outside fabric. I've currently just sewn along this side around, and I've stopped along the bottom here. So I've stopped it here, and I've left enough room for my hand, so I've stopped the sewing at the bottom of the sock here, and then I'm going to continue this side here. So just leave enough room for your hand to go through, and then just start sewing from the other side all the way up, and just finish at the top, again leaving this side open, so it's like an open sock, and then you should have another little open hole somewhere along the bottom, or you can do it on the side if you prefer. It depends on how you want to pull the other fabric through. So the inside is now partially done, so you should be able to open the top of your stocking, pop your hand through, and then towards the end of it you should be able to have a small gap just for your hand here to get out the bottom there in order to pull it through. So moving on to the next step now, what you're going to want to do, leave your inside fabric inside out, and I will show you why in just a moment. But for your outside fabric, you're going to want to, I mean, you can overlock if you want to. This fabric, it doesn't actually need it. It's really just down to preference, and if you're using a fabric that's going to fray, you're not going to see the inside of this anyway. So for me, I'm just going to trim around the edge just of the outer fabric here. So I've got, if you can see here, there's just an extra, I've got about 1.5 centimeters at the end of this one here, so I'm going to give that a little trim, and then you're going to want to flip it inside out and then just press it with your iron just to neaten out those seams. So at the moment you're going to see it's still, I flipped it inside out, but I don't know how well you can see it on here. The seam is still trying to turn itself back inside. So that's why with this fabric in particular as well, you would need to just go around with your iron and press that in place. Sometimes it's easier to put just a scrap piece of cotton over the top if you don't want to ruin the print. This one is plain cotton anyway, it's nothing that's been sort of stuck on there for this design. So I'm just going to go ahead and just quickly press that down into place, and then we'll move on to the next step. So I've now pressed in my seams. I don't know if you can tell a bit more, but the fabric is very flat now, but it does give it a nice neat shape. I can see if I sit back a little bit. It's just a lot neater, and it'll be easy for the next part, and then also you won't have to then go back and do it again at the end once you've got your topper on and you know, your labels and any finishing touches on there. So now that step's done, we can move on to the final part of sewing your Christmas stocking. So moving on to the finishing touches of your fabric, it's like a top, I'm just going to call it the stocking scarf. I don't know what it's actually called, but it's like a little scarf around the top, so we'll call it the neck of it. So what you're going to do, you're going to take your soft white piece here. I folded it right sides together, I think, and I'm just going to clip that edge here. It's going to pop through along the edge here, and they're good for just stopping, especially thicker fabrics, from sliding away from each other at the machine. So I've just clipped those along this edge here, and what we're going to do is, it depends on what size. Now I cut these slightly longer than what I needed, so you're just going to need to just sew. So this is, I've just pinned it together here, and you're just going to sew just a straight line down this side here, just for the amount that you need in order for it to fit inside and around the top part here of your stocking. So as you can see on my one, if I show you this way round, is a bit longer. I do like to cut more rather than less, so I have enough. So you can see here that I do have a bit too much white there, so I'm just going to cut it in line to make sure that I have enough just to go around so that it fits nice like a little glove. So as you can see, I've got quite a lot on the edge, so I need to trim and sew off there. So my line will basically go down here on the white fabric only, and then I'll pop it around here just to make sure. I do actually find that cutting more fabric than I need is just less stressful. Many times I've cut just the right amount and I've wasted so much fabric, had to throw projects away because then it just, you know, I end up cutting too much or I don't have enough, and obviously it doesn't look good all the time if you're just adding pieces on every 2 seconds. So I always like to cut more than I need, and then I can just trim down to size. Now because I've done so many of these, I know what measurement I need, but you will need to just mark it either with fabric chalk or just in line with your pins along the line that you need here, so you know that you're not sewing off too much. So mine here will be 2.5, and that should be enough here. So I'm just going to pop it down, do a front and back stitch just to seal that in, and then just pop off the clips as you go along just so they don't get stuck in there. And then just pop a back stitch at the end of it as well. Once you've done that, you're just going to want to trim off these extra threads here. You can change the thread depending on how thick your little topper, your little scarf piece is. It just depends. So I'm just going to trim off that end here as well. Just a little bit more because you may see some of this on the outside. Going to want to flip this part here inside out, nice pretty little seam here. Okay, so next you're going to want to take the outer fabric here, and we're going to pop this on. So I normally do seam to seam just so it's a lot neater, so I'm just going to pop that around, pull this through, and then you're just going to want to line up everything to the top here. So again, I'm not going to use pins today, I'm going to be using my clips. So along with my seam at the edge here of my stocking, I'm just going to line that up here and then pin that over with my clips here. And again, before you clip everything in place, you can also see if you have left enough room or cut off too little or too small of the white, but this one here is perfect, so I'll clip that into place now. Like so, very good for just clipping things in place, easier than going around with a pin. It just goes through too many layers, so here I just find it a lot easier. So this is just my standard sewing machine, and because the circumference of my my stocking isn't as wide as this, it's a bit smaller. On your machines, everyone, you should be able to slide that off there, and it just creates, I mean, you can put a table on it if you want to, but for this one I just need it a bit smaller just to get the stocking fully round that. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to pull this part here. I mean, you normally try and start at the seam if you need to. For me, I've just been starting at a random spot on the inside because you're not going to see it anyway. So I'm going to pop this all the way around the end of my machine. So as you're sewing, you should just be able to rotate that around there. So you can see here that I've just pulled that over the end of my machine here. Pinned it, clipped it on the sides, made sure that those ones there are not touching either side, so they're not going to get caught. And then I will just sew that around now. So what I'm going to do, I've just popped a few stitches in here. I'm just going to do a quick back stitch. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to sew this around now the top part that we've just pinned, and I'm going to use my right hand just to pull that round underneath the machine to stop it from getting caught. I've just done a back stitch just to lock that part in, so I'm just going to go ahead now and just get that sewn on here. One thing just to remember as you're going through, here I can see and I can feel my label underneath there. So if I show you a bit closer, my label's coming out just under there. So I'm just going to make sure that my thread does not break. Try and make sure it doesn't break. And it's always sometimes worth going over it, doing a back stitch over there just to make sure that the label sort of holds the weight wherever presents are going inside. And then just a back stitch once you've got round back to the front there. So now that step is done, you should have a nice neat stitch just around the top there. You can overlock or do a zigzag stitch just along the top here. I mean, you're not going to see it, and if you want a bit more If you want it to look a bit thicker around the top, you can just leave it as it is. But if you're using a type of fabric that's going to start to fray, then by all means just do a zigzag stitch or just overlock around just the circumference here, just to seal that in a bit neater. So I'm just going to cut my threads off the end here, just only 2. And then what you're going to do, and this is when the hole in the bottom of your lining or your inside fabric comes in handy. So once you've completely sealed the top here, at the bottom of your stocking, you want to reach through the bottom here and just pull out the inside, or push it out from the inside here, and then just tuck that bit out so you've got your stocking part outside. So it should look something like this. You've got your outer fabric this side, your tag and your little scarf part in the middle, and then the inside of your fabric will be quite open here as well. And then what you're going to do is, before you close up the last sewing part of this tutorial, you just pop your hand through and then just make sure that with the outer fabric you've just pushed out everything, just to make sure. I mean, pressing it at the start really helps because it has actually kept its form. It's still very thin, just where I pressed it part of the way through the tutorial, so you shouldn't have to push out that much. Quite lucky it's just kept its neat form there. So just in case it hasn't, just pop your hand through and just make sure all the corners and all the edges are completely pushed out there. So once you have done that, you will then need to close up what will be the inside of your stocking before you pull this all in, and just to make sure, you know, number 1, that it's finished, and number 2, no presents slip through the hole and get lost inside the lining. So what I've done here, after pushing out the edges of the inside of this too, where you've got your hole, you're just going to fold it. I mean, I would advise, I mean, I've done mine on more of a straight part. I mean, it's difficult to get it completely straight unless you're doing it at the side. If you're doing it at the bottom, you're still going to have some sort of curve in there. I'm just going to use my clips just to clip. I mean, you can clip or pin it. Like I said, today I'm going to use my clips, it's a lot quicker. And these stockings don't actually take a very long time once all the prep and everything has been done. So I've just clipped those along there. I'm just going to do just one neat stitch just along this line here. And I'm just going to trim the edges here. Sorry, not trim the edges, trim the threads off. So once you've done that, I'll show you again. So once you've sewn closed the inside of your lining or just your inside fabric, you'll then, so this here will then be the top. So what you're going to do, you're just going to use the inside and you're going to tuck it inside of your outside piece. So if you just pull it all the way through, whichever way is easier to get that all tucked back in there. Just give it a little bit of a shake as well. I'm just going to pull that through. Look a bit bulky, but you just need to go in with your arm and just make sure that everything is popped out correctly. And once you're done, pulling all those bits out, you then have your finished Christmas stocking. So there's quite a lot of space in here, it's quite big, and you'll see that once you've flipped it, here, there it is. So now you'll be ready to hang it up, give it to somebody for a gift. In my case, they're going to be used for our Christmas getaway, which is this weekend. I'm so excited. First week of December, look forward to it now every single year. We've done it first, 2017, so only last year. And yes, it's a couple of days away, so just finishing all the nice little touches. So I have 12 of these. I have 6 in red and the rest are green. So I will show you all the others. There's a lot of stockings here. So these are all the other ones, all ready and done. Some of them I've sort of put on top of each other and now they're a bit creased, so I might just have to press them a little bit. But this is the green version. So I've done this one here for the guys. It's just got little robins and little pies on there, or little cakes, little Christmas puddings. It's really nice. And then and that there is just what I've used at the top. So it's just like a smooth, really soft type of fabric, and this here again I've just cut myself, and it doesn't fray, so I haven't had to overlock at all. It's just as it stands, and then I've got my label on here, if you can see there as well. That is all for today's vlog. Sorry it was a bit late coming, but stockings are now done, and yeah, I'm going to get started on Christmas pyjamas. If you like this tutorial, please give the video a thumbs up, comment your thoughts below, I'd love to read what you thought, and please subscribe to my channel, and I will see you on the next vlog. Thank you so much for watching, bye for now.